So today we're going to talk about how much protein do you need per day. There's so many different ways that this comes at people. You know, you have people who are vegetarian, people who are vegan, you have the big bodybuilders, you have the average day person, you have athletes. What is kind of a good guideline to go with for protein needs? A good one, if you're just like, hey, I just want the quick answer, just go with a gram per pound of body weight. Now, this can be adjusted for, and should be adjusted for, people who are larger, right? So somebody who is 300 plus pounds is not gonna need 300 grams of protein, right? So once the body fat starts to be higher, then you wanna go with more of a lean body mass. So taking that overall body weight, subtracting your fat mass from your fat-free mass, right? So at that point, you'll have a pretty good estimation, and there's photos and stuff online that you can check out. And from there, you get your 1 gram per pound of body weight, right? Or in this case, lean body mass, which is actually a pretty good formula. A lot of the research will show that you need about 0.8 grams per pound of body weight on the low end and upwards of 1.5 on the higher end. I personally have had really good success with about 1.6 grams per pound of body weight. Now again, I'm sitting anywhere between, probably a 6 to 10% body fat on average, right? So I'm already at a pretty high level of body composition, right? So the leaner you are, the more protein that you want to have in your diet, simply to sustain your lean body mass, because you have more of it in comparison to mass that you don't have. The other scenarios where you want to have higher amounts of protein are going to be when you are in a calorie deficit. A calorie deficit is going to encourage the body to use amino acids for calorie energy, right? And so when the body is looking for energy, it will look to use whatever it can find, whether that's glucose, which is a broken down form of carbohydrates, fatty acids, which is fat broken down, ketone bodies as well, and your amino acids. And so being in a calorie deficit, your body is naturally going to burn whatever it has, and in many cases, unfortunately, it's going to use your own lean body mass if you don't have enough protein in your diet. So having that increased amount of protein in your diet is really going to make for sustaining your lean body mass, and depending on the amount of calorie deficit that you're in, you might actually be able to build. Now, that's going to be closer to what would be a maintenance, and at that point, you're just doing a very slow body recomposition, which is ideal. You're losing body fat and you're slowly gaining. So the downside of doing something like that is that you don't really take off in either direction. You're not going to lose body fat really quick, and you're not going to gain muscle really quick. You're just going to have this slow kind of transition, and over time, you'll be good. So that's another video in itself. Now, the other issue is, there's a myth out there that you can only digest 30 grams of protein. If that was the case, we'd be in big trouble as a species, especially way back in the day with the cavemen, and they unfortunately could only eat one big meal a day because maybe they didn't eat for 3 days, they had to kill whatever, to eat. And so you get into essentially what the body will do. It may not be able to use all of it, but it will do its best to make the use of as much of it as it can. So maybe in one sitting you have 200 grams of protein. Maybe the body will slow down digestion and absorb those amino acids, and we'll say you get 80% of that. So that puts you at about 180 grams of protein, right? If you're at 100, you take away 80, make sure I do this right, 160, excuse me. So you get 160 grams of absorption from that 200. So it's not really going to be ideal, right? What we want is optimal absorption of protein. The other way you know that you're not using it is because you're not passing things along in its entirety. You're not having loose bowels, right, if you will. So what is optimal is really more the question than can it be absorbed. It can be absorbed, but it's not optimal when you have it all in one bolus amount. So what is optimal is about a 3.5, 4.5 hour spacing, which comes out to about 4 or 5 meals a day. The more you can keep that at an even level, a even amount of protein per meal, the better off you are, because your body can only, again, it only needs so much of a threshold to start that process of making new proteins, of making new muscle tissue, new connective tissue. And when you have that amount of protein that is available, you're good. Anything else is just extra. You don't really need it. It's like you're building a house, right? And you need 1 ton of bricks to make this portion of it. And you have a load delivered to the place for 2,500 pounds. For anybody that's metrically challenged, like I used to be, that is 500 pounds too much. 1 metric ton is gonna be 2,000 pounds. So we have 500 extra pounds of this brick that unfortunately you can't really use, until a later time. Maybe something happens, you need to repair something. The body's kind of the same way, except we can't store it. The only way that we store muscle, or the only way we store protein, is in our muscle tissue. And so by having that extra, you're not really doing yourself justice. If anything, your body's gonna say, okay, well, we've met our protein needs, let's try and make as much energy from this as we can. It's very, very difficult for the body to make energy, to break down that protein into ATP, essentially, at the long molecular way of doing things. And so it's just kind of this extra task that the body has to do that it doesn't really need. And it could be doing other metabolic processes, such as using the protein that you gave it that was sufficient to build that muscle tissue, or to get rid of any kind of bacteria, any kind of virus via the immune system, to give you more energy neurologically. All those other facets are going to be taken away if the body has to do something else. So make sure you're getting anywhere from 0.8, I don't really recommend that, but from the research, 0.8 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. Again, 1.5 is very high. I have gone as high as 1.6. And the other aspect that I'll say here at the end is that if you go too high and you're in a caloric restriction, you only have so many calories that you can allot for your carbohydrates and fats, right? And so if your protein is too high, your carbs and fats are gonna be very low. If your fats are too low, then you're not gonna have enough fat to make hormones or make them in an efficient amount that you need. If you have too low carbohydrates, your workouts are gonna suffer. You're not gonna be able to bench press as much. You're not gonna be able to squat as much. You're gonna get tired faster. Your overall performance is going to drop, and because the stimulus on the muscle tissue isn't there, then you're gonna lose muscle that way. So it's a catch-22 to some extent, because if you go too high, then everything else has to drop, and you're not gonna have the energy to sustain the muscle, even though the protein is there. So for somebody who is trying to lose body fat, we'll do this route as well. For someone who's trying to lose body fat, you wanna stick anywhere from 1.1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body mass, or per 1.1 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. If you are carrying more body fat, stick closer to that 1.1, maybe even that 1 gram. Again, this is for a deficit. If you're somebody who's already very lean, single digit body fat, then you want to be closer to that 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. If you have any comments, that you have any questions, anything that you're like, I'm not really sure about that, you want some research, proof of it, anything like that, go ahead and put that in the comment section, and definitely subscribe for more videos. Coming out weekly with these things, if not daily, trying to give you guys the best information that I've learned, both from a experience standpoint, doing personal training, both online and in person, and also what I've learned getting a degree in exercise science and a certified personal trainer with the American College of Sports Medicine. So those are kind of my credentials, where I get my information, my experience, my background. I've been doing this for about 9 years. So again, trying to give you guys the best information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at 𝑊allStreetTrainer@gmail.com. If you're interested in doing online personal training with me, check out the website, 𝑊allStreetTrainer.com. Catch you guys in the next video.